Good evening. Who knows what the #1 reason for personal bankruptcy is in the United States? It's medical bills. Well, you think, well, that's awful, but hey, I'm okay because I've got health insurance, so that'll take care of me, right? No, it won't. Over half the people that get a diagnosis of cancer actually wind up reporting that they have either severe or catastrophic financial problems. And of those people that had those problems, 96% of them had health insurance. So this is basically the reason for the existence of Heavenly Mimi.
So here's our team.
I'm John McCaskill. I've served as the team lead.
I'm Paige. I'm responsible for the strategy 3 of the project.
I'm Sean. I mainly look at the grant writing things of the project.
And I'm Celine. I'm responsible to find a partner to help Heavenly Mimi with the medical bill audit. And so here comes our agenda for today. First, we're going to talk about our background, which includes the financial cost of cancer and how programs will help with cancer costs. And we'll give a brief introduction to our client. And then we are going to discuss about our Mimosa plan, what's a Mimosa plan, and our results from it. And finally, we're going to talk about our summary of our findings, and we're going to discuss about our takeaways from it. So cancer is a very expensive disease. As you can see here, those patients with medical insurance will cost over $1,200 per month. And even worse, for those elderly women with breast cancer, the cost will be huge. You can see here is a curve of the average breast cancer cost per month, with an initial phase of nearly $2,000 and with an immediate cost of $184 per month. And in the final phase, it jumps up to over $5,000 per month. That's a huge cost for every family. And with such huge costs for cancer, is there anything to help? The most impactful program is called the Patient Assistance Program. But that program is poorly designed and may not help as much as they can. And even worse, the largest nonprofit of PAP in North Texas is under the investigation of IRS. So I think that's probably why Heavenly Mimi is here to help. Let me give a brief introduction to our client, Heavenly Mimi. Heavenly Mimi is a local nonprofit organization based in Richardson, Texas, and Heavenly Mimi is here to help with to provide financial support for those for cure and early detection of cancer. And here's our founder, Ms. Allison. And I'm passing this to Sean to talk about our Mimosa plan.
Okay, I would like to talk about Mimosa plan, which is a typical researching plan for the nonprofits. So Mimosa stands for vision, objective, strategies, and action plans. So our vision is to help to ease the financial burdens for the families fighting the cancers, and our mission is to help them to with financial auxiliary financial helps and to make them less exhausting financially. And our objectives, we want to expand our our entity to like 100,000 size, while in the meantime want to minimize our operating and fundraising expenses. So here we developed the 4 main strategies along with the related action plans. Our #1 strategy is to smooth out the operating budget, because why want to smooth out the budget? Because if we want our boards to paid money, I pay a lot of money in the beginning of the very first. It will be a lot of burden for them, so we can smooth them out using our schedules and using the timing to smooth out the budget. While in the meantime, we can utilize the course help of the students to ask them to do the voluntary work or hire them as interns in terms of advisors. So the potential barrier of threat is that not necessarily that the students will be interested in doing these interns, while it will be burdensome for the supervisory works for the board. And next page talks about the next page.
The strategy two. The strategy two is about hiring some student interns to pursue grant funding. Action one, searching for students who are interested in grant writing or familiar with the research practice. Then Heavenly Mimi can provide training programs and start research practice for these students. However, there are some potential barriers. Firstly, not every student is interested in receiving grant writing skills. Secondly, it might create extra financial burden for Heavenly Mimi to manage students and provide training programs for these students. For this strategy, Heavenly Mimi can cooperate with the Office of Student Volunteerism, Jason Connect, and EPPS Public and Nonprofit Management Department. The strategy three is to Heavenly Mimi can merge or partner with ACS, which is American Cancer Services, and CCS, Cancer Care Services. The action one, Heavenly Mimi provides some similar services with those of ACS and CCS. With a partnership, Heavenly Mimi can integrate their resources so that Heavenly Mimi can provide more effective services or powerful services for the people in need. Action two, both ACS and CCS are experienced in holding fundraising events, and Heavenly Mimi can learn from them, like how to reduce the expense of holding fundraising events, how to attract more donors. The potential barrier for this strategy is first, Heavenly Mimi is a small organization. It may not have enough resources or capacity to handle the partnership with ACS. And secondly, CCS may regard Heavenly Mimi as a competitor rather than a partner. Now let John explain the rest of the slides.
All right, and then strategy 4 involves Heavenly Mimi integrating their services or their monetary donations with a medical bill auditing service, because there are a number of services out there that will actually go in and audit the bill that you get from the hospital, and oddly enough, they on average find about half of them are erroneous. So there's a significant area in there for that to be able to leverage the money that Heavenly Mimi is providing to cancer patients and their families to be able to maximize their possible activities. So the first is to interview companies to find out which ones are interested in partnering in this way, because you could just do a standard arm's length transaction, but the optimum thing to do would be to either one, partner in a Robinhood type of relationship where Heavenly Mimi actually refers clients to these consultant groups, and the ones that can afford to pay the full price. The ones that can't afford to pay are then subsidized by the profits that are, or the profit sharing type of plan in there. The other activity would be to somehow engage in starting a business of their own along those lines, but that would be further down the road to be able to then provide those types of services on their own and to be able to do that more effectively to meet the needs of their clients. So the potential barriers, these audit companies may not have an interest in partnering. They seem to be doing just fine before we met, so why would they want to do this after that? The activity will also put a significant managerial burden on the Heavenly Mimi organization, so there's going to be time required to build up the capacity for staff to be able to deal with this. But we did look at a number of potential collaborators, and this was through a brief web search. And Chapman Consulting seems to have some of the most transparent and reasonable pricing to be able to use, at least in the beginning. They seem like a really great place to start. So we presented this VMOSA plan, and a VMOSA plan, for those of you that aren't aware of it, is basically the strategic plan for a nonprofit. This is the standardized form that large organizations, grant funders, other large nonprofits are used to seeing, and will really help out with grant writing and doing some of these other things because of the way that the information is organized. We've come up with 4 strategies here that can be used as far as moving forward and growing the organization. One is to request that the donations be given in a counter-cyclical fashion to be able to smooth out the budgeting, because every time you hit a spike in fundraising activities, you're flush with money, but then all of a sudden you've got these dry periods. So it would be nice to have that nice and smoothed out so you can provide continuous support to the cancer patients and those in need. Engage student interns with an aggressive grant writing and grant research and writing initiative. There are a lot of students, particularly over in my part of the world, which is on the north end of campus, that are very interested in grant writing and working with nonprofits. And grant writing is one of those skills that isn't just writing, it's doing the research to find these things. And then partnering with the American Cancer Society and Cancer Care Services and fundraising and service provision. And finally, that medical billing audit consulting partnership that we just discussed. So, for our takeaways, Celine?
My biggest takeaway from this project is that finally I can get a great chance to practice my teamwork skill as well as my consulting skill, and I do appreciate it. And how about you, Sean?
I think it's very challenging or it's rewarding to think about, to start thinking about how to do a big project in a short time and location.
This project is help me to know the operation of a non-profit organization, and I learned how to manage time effectively. How about you, John?
Well, what I learned was the real desperate need that we have for organizations like Heavenly Mimi. I didn't realize that there was such a big hole in the nonprofit sector in this part of North Texas. We're one of the largest giving areas in the country, and yet this is a neglected area that really has dramatic impacts that flows throughout a community. So we also wanted to give a huge thank you to both Allison and Mary Beth for both of what you all do, and each of your own fields. You're providing a tremendous service, and we wanted to thank you very much for your work and efforts along there. So with that, are there any questions that we can answer for you?
2 questions.
I have a comment. I think this is so like touching. You know?
Isn't it?
So,
Yes.
Yeah. So human, so needed. And
Yeah.
so thank you for doing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned that there's a big hole for this type of nonprofit within North Texas. So are there any other similar organizations in
Well, there is, but they're over. They stay in the western part of the metroplex. They're actually over in, and we got a bit of a map. We took the metropolitan statistical area of North Texas and looked at it, and they're over in Hood, Tarrant, and Denton counties, and they don't operate over here. Now, they're very good size. They've got a $10 million plus a year operating budget, but they don't serve this part of the Metroplex. That other group is that PAP that we were looking at is actually funded by the pharmaceutical industry, and it looks more like a money laundering operation than it does a nonprofit. So, which is why the IRS finds them interesting. So they're $300 million plus. They're the size of the American Cancer Society, but who would have sent But anyway, yeah, they just don't seem to be all that particularly helpful.
Okay. Well, we'll just leave it at one question. Allison, do you have a couple of thoughts you'd like to share?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, cancer is very rapid. So it's no matter if there's 100 heavily needy, it's so prevalent because
Yes.
there is a need. And 9 out of 10 applications I get, everyone has insurance, and like Cancer Care Services, so I do work with them, and they don't consider me as a competitor because they send me what they can't do. So it's all because they only have certain counties that they can help. With heavily needy, we help the whole state of Texas, and what makes us a little bit unique is we help any type of cancer at any age range, And the reason why I did that was because my mom and my son had unique cancer, so I don't want to exclude everybody, but they did a phenomenal job. I mean, they researched it. They were so brilliant on their facts and asked a lot of good questions, like your team did for you. And I'm just so blessed to have them be helping make Heavenly Needy more successful.